A major winter weather pattern shift is coming up that will impact tens of millions of people. What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. All right, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. We have quite a bit to discuss with you once again. We're looking at some more snowfall coming up in the next few days for parts of the Midwest and the Mid-Atlantic region of the United States, as well as some more snowfall for Virginia and other parts of the Appalachians as well. We will talk about that with you guys too, but we are also paying attention to a potentially more long-term shift that we're coming up ahead, looking at some potentially big cold air coming up towards the middle to end of December that we're definitely going to want to pay attention to as we get deeper into the winter. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and dive right into it right here. Starting off with the short-term forecast, here's the North American model, mainly looking at snowfall potential for the next few days, particularly in the Appalachian regions, the upper Midwest, as well from that Alberta Clipper, and in parts of the Great Lakes in Mid-Atlantic. So we're going to want to go ahead and show you that right here, starting right pretty soon, actually, in the next little while. We are looking at some snowfall starting in the next, actually, let's go ahead and pull up the 12Z. Starting off with that, there is snowfall ongoing right now in parts of Virginia, parts of Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey as well. Matt was texting me about that this morning. Matt, shout out to you for letting me know. But we also have this Alberta Clipper system moving in, starting around tomorrow, actually, moving pretty quickly through Nebraska, South Dakota, and going into Iowa and northern Illinois. The Chicago area, especially for Sunday, could definitely be impacted quite a bit by this right here, the morning and going into the early and mid-afternoon as well. By the time we get to 6 o'clock Central Time, the system is moving out, and you do have some lingering snow effects for a lot of you guys right there. Definitely going to want to pay attention to it. Also, significant lake effect is possible in the Upper Peninsula, parts of Michigan as well, Lake Erie, Lake Ontario as well, and then we see more snowfall impacting parts of the Great Lakes as well, according to the NAM, going into Tuesday, so that's something we're going to want to pay attention to as well. Here is your total snow accumulation for you guys right here. Not looking at too much with this round right now. Looking at a little bit more snow in parts of Virginia, Maryland, and Delaware. Maybe another inch or two over there. But mainly the big stuff is going to be concentrated in Minnesota, Iowa, and the Chicago area. Looking at potentially up to 9 inches of snow, according to the North American model, for parts of Iowa and Minnesota. And then going into the Chicago area, let's go ahead and zoom in on this right here. 2 to 3 inches of snow for a lot of you areas right there. Northwest Indiana, up to 2 inches of snow. Upward Michigan, though, definitely gets more of the snowfall right here, potentially up to 7 inches of snow near the lower peninsula in that region up there. Traverse City gets about 3+ inches of snow as well. So you're going to want to pay attention to that as well. Taking a quick gander at the European as well, just to show a little bit of a difference, a bit more aggressive in the snowfall right here. Not as much in parts of Iowa and Minnesota, although you're still getting 8+ inches of snow in some isolated pockets right here. The European does have it more stretched out, and you're looking at 3 to 5 inches of snowfall for the Chicago area. Parts of upper Michigan definitely get a little bit of a downturn, but you do see more lake effect snow in parts of the upper Michigan peninsula that you're going to want to watch out for. And lastly, showing you the GFS right here. The GFS generally kind of keeps it concentrated in southern Iowa, a bit of a shift compared to the NAM and the European. Right here, it's 2 to 4 inches for the Chicago area as well that you're going to want to pay attention to. And then moving on to parts of the Mid-Atlantic as well. The NAM is mainly forecasting not much change to happen at this current point in time. You're going to want to pay attention to it, but overall not seeing as much. Looking at the GFS, GFS is pretty interesting, mainly keeping it between 1 and 2 inches of snow. Same with the Euro as well. You're going to want to watch. It did have more snow over here, but this has already fallen, so please do take that with a grain of salt. We'll continue to keep you updated on that right there. But now shifting over to more of the, actually we'll go ahead and start with our temperatures real quickly. We are going to be seeing some pretty significant Arctic cold that we're going to want to watch out for as well. And let's go ahead and get started with that. We already saw very cold temperatures earlier this morning across much of the Midwest and parts of New England as well. That's going to continue for quite some time. It's going to warm up a little bit, but you do have some more Arctic temperatures moving through parts of the United States. Look at this. This is by Monday morning right here, as after the end of the weekend. You're looking at those temperatures going back down to the negatives potentially in northern Illinois that you're going to want to pay attention to. With that freezing line going as far south as Waco in Texas right here, you're going to want to pay attention to it, especially more in the long term forecast as well. And then we can go and then we can also show you what we're looking at potentially in the long run with the European forecast as well. Here's what we have for you guys right here. Let's go ahead and give you a quick gander of this. European's forecast has more Arctic air moving through. It does start to calm down a little bit as we get to the 9th and the 10th, not as cold, but then you start seeing another bit of a push in the Midwest. And look at this. This is for December 12th, December 13th. This massive area pushes all the way down with that freezing line going all the way down to Alabama. And you have negative 10 degrees in Wisconsin, parts of Minnesota as well, with temperatures in the single digits as far south as far south as Fishers in Indiana right here. And you're looking at this in the teens as far south as St. Louis as well. You're going to want to take that very seriously. It's just going to be Arctic blast after Arctic blast after Arctic blast. Right here, and that just keeps digging down. Look at this. This is for Monday on the 15th right here. Look at this. This is the European. I don't know how realistic this is, but considering the high pressure systems in the upper 1040s right here, yeah, I could definitely see those temperatures really start to turn up across the region. But look at this, 5 degrees in St. Louis. You're looking at temperatures in the teens all through Kentucky and parts of Tennessee, and these are areas that aren't in the Appalachian Mountains either. This is a very big Arctic blast, and this is probably going to be the biggest one so far that's forecasted this season, and there's plenty more of that to come after that. And then as we get to the 16th right here, it mainly remains concentrated, but look at this. That freezing line goes all the way down to Florida, all the way down to the Florida Panhandle, all the way down to Gainesville, Florida. This is a very far-reaching system right here, and we are absolutely going to want to pay attention to it. I would not be surprised if we see freeze warnings across a lot of this area right here. We're going to want to pay attention to that, but this is going to likely impact 100 plus million people right here, and you're going to want to take this super seriously down the line. My goodness, look at what the Europeans doing. It does start to calm down a little bit, but you're still looking at these freezing temperatures all the way down to Florida right here. It's not as bad in parts of the Midwest in New England, but in parts of the South that are not used to these kind of temperatures, wow, just unbelievable temperatures that we're seeing right here. Then it does start to calm down a little bit before another Arctic blast moves through parts of the United States on the 20th. But that's your temperature that you're looking at right here. And with all those indications, that is quite the weather that we're going to be seeing. How is this going to translate to snowfall? Well, we'll go ahead and pull up the GFS and see how that pans out. Here's your precipitation type. GFS is not the most reliable model, I know. We'll also show the GMGDPS for the 10-day forecast as well. But here's your GFS model. Now we have the 9th and 10th, another Alberta Clipper system. Another Alberta Clipper system moves through parts of the U.S. as well, mainly keeping it in the mountains as well, I will say. You're definitely not going to see that much snow in the 14th and 15th because just of that high pressure system. High pressure equals more cold, low pressure equals more snow. That's what you need to know this winter, and that's the typical thing that we can kind of give you right there. You're not going to see that much going on for for a few days until another Clipper system starts to move through, and then another one and another one after that. But keep in mind, by the time we get to this point, this is December 21st. This is 16 days out. A lot of this is Fantasyland. Take it with a massive grain of sodium chloride. But with that being said, here's the GMGDPS for the next 10 days as well. And as you can see, things are getting pretty interesting. You have multiple Clipper systems moving through parts of the United States as well. You do have more snowfall impacting parts of West Virginia, and even going as far south as North Carolina as well before things start to turn up. Then you have another Clipper system coming in on the 10th. That's going to make finals week definitely quite a bit more snowy for a lot of people doing college work at that point. And then as you go to the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th, definitely seeing that high pressure system moving through parts of the US, but you have clipper system after clipper system after clipper system moving through parts of the United States. So that is definitely something that we're going to want to pay attention to down the line. And here's your total snow accumulation right here. This isn't from one snow system, but it's a combination of multiple snow systems all at once. And that is something we're going to want to pay attention to. This the 0Z GMGDPS right here. This last night. Here's what we had, the 12Z. The 12Z is running right now. It's unfortunately not out at the time of recording. So the 0Z is the best we got with this in the European. So we'll just mainly use that. But look at this. You're looking at over a foot of snow, potentially up to 20 inches of snow in parts of the Midwest and Great Plains. In the lake effect snow, man, things really ramp up for Michigan, Pennsylvania, New York as well, potentially up to 30 inches of snow in those Great Lakes regions. With the fact that we're seeing so much cold temperatures, the fact that we're seeing cold temperatures at this level, and the fact that we're still seeing these lake temperatures much warmer above average, that temperature change is only going to exacerbate the issue, because when you're looking at lake temperatures that are still in the mid to 40s at this current point in Lake Michigan, maybe in the lower 40s in Lake Superior, and you're seeing negative temperatures after negative temperatures after negative temperatures, what do? What's that going to do? That's going to produce more convection for you guys right there, and that's going to produce more snowfall, potentially more intense snowfall as well. This is going to be a very big year for lake effect snow. We already saw what that did last month with the Chicago area. We saw quite a few big lake effect snow areas in Michigan, in New York, in Pennsylvania, in Ohio as well for Thanksgiving. So that's something that we're going to want to pay attention to. Looking at the European as well. Euro is definitely a bit more concentrated, but similar situation, although they do want a lot more snowfall in parts of the Appalachians, Kentucky, as well as parts of North Carolina and the D.C. area. Those snow systems that are kind of developing a little bit earlier are going to continue. They're not one big snow system, but rather multiple smaller snows that just add up over time. And then you continue to move on to the 20th right here. What you're seeing right here, folks, is just this snow system after snow system after snow system. And this isn't from one big snow either. I need to emphasize this like a broken record. This isn't from one big snow. This is literally 3 to 5 inch snowstorms time after time after time after time. And over time, that's going to continue to accumulate. And that's something we need to watch out for. Looking at the GFS for context, really overdoing the lake effect snow, in my opinion. But my goodness, look at just the amount of snowfall you're seeing in the Midwest, in the northeastern U.S. That mountain snow definitely gets more exacerbated as well. And we'll have to continue to keep you updated and pay attention to it as well. The main takeaway for this section is this is going to be a very snowy Midwest. This is going to be a very snowy cycle for a lot of people in the Midwest, New England, Mid-Atlantic, and it's not going to be big snows. It's going to be multiple 3 to 5 inch snowfalls that just add up over time, but they're coming every 2 to 3 days that by the time you clean it up, you're going to need to send more plows to do it again. And we all saw what happened earlier this week on Monday when you had 3 inches of snow pretty much shut down the entire Midwest. That's something that you're going to want to keep in mind as well. And I might make a video documenting just how that happened. That might come out either this weekend or early next week. Let me know in the comments down below if you want to see that. But with that being said, we're looking at a pretty big pattern that we're going to want to pay attention to for the next few days. Lastly, here is the CFS model. We're going to show you this because I want to show you what the temperature may look like, as well as kind of the long-term synoptic pattern may end up as well. So let's go ahead and show you the CFS model as well. CFS, Arctic blast after Arctic blast after Arctic blast after Arctic blast, polar plunge after polar plunge after polar plunge, trough after trough after trough after trough after trough. If somebody wants to clip this and make this a song, I don't care, but the point still stands. I'm doing this again. But anyway, the point still stands that you're still seeing these temperatures just keep going down. And look at this. This is the 13th right here. You're looking at these temperatures minus 12, like minus 10 at 850 Celsius, all the way down to Georgia and Alabama. And this is around the time frame where we're seeing that massive Arctic blast that the European was showing, moving all the way down to Florida. So this pretty much exacerbates that problem. Then you have another blast moving through, and another trough moving through after that on the 19th and the 20th right here. But anyway, here's the kicker part of it right here. The 21st, this CFS run has kind of been wonky with this. It's long-range models. You got to take it with a grain of sodium chloride. But what I will say for you guys right here is this is definitely a low pressure system favorable type of environment right here. You have your low heights right here, closing in at 1350 right here. Average height for this current point right here at 850 is about 1500. You have a low pressure system right here. You have your lower heights. And you also have cold air behind that as well. That's where your snowfall potential may be as well. And as time goes on, it really dives down as a potential cold front all the way down to Louisiana and Mississippi right here. And then as we get towards the end of this right here, we see another big cold plunge moving through parts of the U.S. And this time the colder temperatures are a bit further to the south, not as intense, but still further to the south as time continues to go on. And then as we get to Christmas Day right here, here's what we're looking at on Christmas morning. It's going to be cold throughout a lot of parts of the United States right here that we're going to want to pay attention to for right here. But this is definitely a pattern that I'm looking at right here where you're seeing trough after trough and Arctic blast after Arctic blast following it, that you'll see a higher chance of a white Christmas if you're in the Midwest, Mid-Atlantic, New England, and the mountain regions as well. Even in the upper south, you could potentially see it if that snow system moves far enough to the south to kind of match that. But we're not 100% sure what that's going to happen. We just know it's a favorable Christmas cold, snowy pattern for a lot of you guys right here. But then as we get to the 26th and the 27th, you start seeing pretty big cold blasts moving through parts of North Dakota, parts of the Minnesota, and those areas as well. Before you were seeing the whites right here. Now you're starting to see more of the greens right here. These are indicative of temperatures below minus 30 degrees Celsius. That's minus 22 degrees Fahrenheit for those who do not use the metric system. But look at this, the 28th. This is a very big Arctic blast that we're dealing with right here, going into the 29th as well for much of the Midwest, going as far south as North Carolina too. You have a ridge following it after that. As we get to December 1st and January 1st, New Year's Day, mainly going to be a bit more temperate, but then you're going to start seeing more cold plunges following that, and you're going to want to pay attention and take this pretty seriously. But ultimately, the situation that we're dealing with right here, you're just going to keep seeing a lot of temperature changes right here. And like I said before, these analogs to me prove that they may not be like as cold as 2013 to 2014, but they'll definitely be as active. You're going to see as many snowstorms. You're going to see as many troughs. You're going to see as big of a pattern as that. And as I play the full loop for you guys right there, things do get a bit more interesting down the line. And that's why I've been saying that we're looking at a pretty big pattern shift throughout the rest of December and going into January as well. Models are still trying to figure out what's going to be happening at that far out, but at least throughout much of December, we can iron out some of the details as to what may be going on as we move through the month. But by and large, things continue to get not necessarily out of control, but things continue to get a bit more interesting as we look at how the system is going to develop, at least this winter system that we're seeing right here in terms of the synoptic conditions. Also going to want to pay attention to our severe weather threat as well for those tuning in from the south. That's going to be a big threat for you guys right there. But the main takeaway is you guys are going to want to prepare for this. You have a very big Arctic blast coming in the next week or so, potentially, according to the models. And you're going to want to take it super seriously, especially for those who are not used to these cold temperatures either. That's something that we need to emphasize for you as well. Snowfall, yeah, you're going to see a lot of snowfall, but it's not going to be from one big storm. It's going to be from multiple smaller storms. I'm mainly more concerned about the Arctic cold that's going to be pushing through much of the United States, and that is an area that I will continue to watch, and we will continue to keep you updated on here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and close the video out right here. I really hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a good Friday as well. Please be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. The goal, as always, is to get more people engaged with weather. Another thing, screw the Burger King commercials. They are absolutely cringe. If you'd like to help out, hang out, or ask us questions, feel free to join the Storms Unite Discord server. The link to that will be in the end screen in just a few seconds. But I do want to say I'm really glad that I'm covering winter weather. I'm glad you guys are receiving it pretty well. Be sure, as always, to share it with a friend and all that as well, just to get them more engaged with weather as well. I'm eternally grateful as we go into the holiday season. It's going to be pretty busy. I'm both excited and nervous for that at the same time. We'll have to see how things ultimately go. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful day. Stay safe. Before we end this, we've been dealing with a lot of stuff this week, and I want you to close this out. What are we dealing with this week, John?
A little bit of everything.